fucking hate coming here.
I'm your brother, you my brother. You know what I'm saying?
Let's walk this way.
Is that Prince for King? Come here, Prince. What's today's mathematics?
Hey, yo, no disrespect, but we ain't in all of that, son. Build, destroy. To build is to elevate the mentalities of self and those around self. To add positive energy to every nation. To build, you must first start from the root, which is the knowledge foundation, and add on to the highest peak. To destroy is to eliminate and destroy any and all negativity that enters my cipher of supreme harmony.
Peace, God.
Peace, God.
Come on, son. Brother.
What's going on? This is 10-4 Hat Talk. Today's topic is Yakub, the big head scientist. If you do not know about Yakub, the big head scientist, you will be educated tonight. For those that do know about Yakub, the big head scientist, your commentary is greatly appreciated. This is 10-4 Hat Talk. Okay, I'm gonna try to do this periodically whenever the event arises. I'll pretty much drop in and do a 10-4 Hat Talk. One of the things about my channel is it's mostly surprises, so you just stay tuned and just be surprised. That's all. So tonight, this is kind of basically the 10-4 hat theory is just basically talking about aliens, esoteric stuff, metaphysical stuff, folklore, just all kinds of stuff outside the box. Okay, if your mental health is kind of distraught, you might not want to listen to this live stream. I mean, if you're high, you might want to listen to it depending on how high you are. I don't know, but this is the whole concept. I mean, the whole, the cat with the 10-4 hat. I mean, basically, this is pretty much entertainment. It's mixed in with whatever you think it is. All right, so we're gonna get right into it. We just gonna go right to video. Fuck it. Don't need my commentary. If you don't know about Yakub, you're gonna know about Yakub tonight. All right. Basically, Yakub is it's a kind of a Nation Islam, like 5%er conscious community topic. Okay. That's all you need to know. All right, I'm gonna get right into it.
And you have been killed by them of the knowledge of yourself and of the knowledge of them. And the only way that you can enjoy your salvation, you've got to know yourself. And you've got to know them.
Well, who is this Yakub? Prophesying from the Isle of Patmos.
Message.
Engrafting, let's get right there to answer that question. Engrafting a life from a life that we say is the original, that which we graft from benefit from. We are producing. Pardon me. We are reducing the power of that original when we draft from it.
White folks in 1930 didn't know nothing about genetic engineering, did they? Matter of fact, unless you just graduated from school just a few years ago, you didn't know nothing about it till just a few years ago. Now you know all about genetic engineering. Now they talk about making tomatoes through genetic engineering, and they're going to have pig genes in the tomato to make the tomato fat. They're going to be having that in the supermarket real soon. Have you a pig tomato. And they're making them sweat. Genetic engineering, you can take a natural living thing, manipulate the genetic material in it, in other words, the chromosomes, and then you can make it into something that God never created.
By inbreeding parents that are genetically closely related, negative outcomes can arise. The offspring will all share very similar genes, which could make some diseases more dangerous as the same weaknesses. The reduced gene pool also means that they are more vulnerable as they have less chance of being able to adapt to changes in the environment, such as climate change. There's also an increased risk of genetic disease caused by recessive genes. Being genetically very similar, if both parents carry the recessive gene for a genetic disease, like cystic fibrosis, then the offspring will all inherit this disease. The white tiger is a good example of severe mutations building up due to the inbreeding of individuals that are too closely related.
In cats such as the cat family,
So I'll just kind of help you. I'll just help you out a little bit. So the Yakubian theory, okay, the Yakubian theory is basically this big-headed scientist. He was hated by his kind, which was this theory is in the book Message to the Black Man. First off, okay, this theory, this story, I first read it in the Message to the Black Man. I started reading. One of the things about me is, I'll just say, just to kind of put things in perspective, this is very, very important. One of the first books, the first couple books I really started reading to just kind of take my journey into enlightenment was the Quran, and then the Bible, and then also my first conscious book was Message to the Black Man. And then that led to a whole bunch of books, a shit ton of books. But yeah, when I first read the Message to the Black Man, the Yakubian story was kind of tripped out. It was very, very tripped out. But the story is basically to just kind of give you some type of foundation. It's a big head black scientist, like thousands years ago or whatever, that he was kind of cast away from his own kind, which was, I guess, other black people, I guess you could say. Well, it's not so much guess, but basically he was a black man with a big head. He was very smart. And he basically grafted black from brown to red, and then red to yellow, and then yellow to white. And it's like basically he started some type of like Frankenstein type of experiment where he got some evil nurses to basically produce and graft different species of man based off color, and they basically started from black and then ended to white, basically. And that's how, like, Yakub is like the father, quote unquote, theoretically, of the like white people, basically, which is kind of weird, but not really, because basically that's the story of all mankind. All humankind came from black, but they just, as far as the story, have Yakub as he grafted all of these people on this island with these like I said, evil nurses that basically administered all of this. And that's kind of the story, or if you didn't know that. But they gonna, I'm sure, go into it. I'm just giving you the groundwork. Let me continue playing this video here.
Lions, all the grafted of his family is lesser in power than the original lion. And that which is grafted from the original lion, this lion is not to be trusted too much. As we take in the left foot and in the other cats from the lion family, all the lion family, they are more dangerous and cannot be trusted. Like we can this original lion here. The original lion, we can take him and make him lie around us even at an old age. And we can still trust him. But we can't trust this leopard and these other cats because they have, by nature, some little evil wicked. He's just wicked, that's all. And through the grafted it. He pokes upon us while we're not even looking at it. When we know in the day he's destroying us. So we don't trust him. But we will trust the original lion there. Get him when he's a little cub, and we can bring him up like in the other house.
That voice is Elijah Muhammad. Elijah Muhammad was like basically one of the founders of the Nation Islam. The actual founder was actually, they call him God himself. They said he was God and his name was Master Farrar Muhammad. He was basically a mulatto. Now, I have to say, okay, first off, I've never been in the Nation Islam. If you probably thought that, if you followed me throughout the years, I am not a member. I've never been a member of the Nation Islam. My mother was. The thing that I find about the Nation Islam that's kind of interesting is they have some type of, it's unique. To me, the Nation Islam have something where they worship light skin. Like they're very into light skinnedness. That's what I when I, as far as the times that I've been to the temple in like Chicago, which is Mos Marion, even just the interactions I have and stuff like that, they very much into worshiping like light skinned men primarily. Like they're very much into light skinnedness. That's my interpretation of it. But yeah, they believe that some light skinned guy came from Mecca to America is God himself in the form of a man, which is he's called Master Farrar Muhammad. That's what they believe. Now, it's not bad in a sense, because you got to think like, okay, I'm going to say some things I normally don't say, this tinfoil hat talk. The thing is that when you talk about the religions that was forced upon Black people, African people, first was Christianity, that was forced on black people primarily in West Africa. I know the origin story of Ethiopians and the Christian church and the Coptic church, but the West Africans was forced to be Christians by proxy of war and also forced to be Muslims by proxy of war. So on one hand, you have white worship, which is in Christendom. Then Islam, you have Arab worship. Well, the Nation Islam, even gods of the earth, all of the pillars of that community, it's really called, to be sum it up, as the conscious community. And within that conscious community, you have the nations of gods of earth, you have the Moorish Science Temple, you have the Nation Islam, and even Hebrew Israelites. The thing is that primarily with the Nation Islam, they worship a light-skinned black man that's God. So it's a slight improvement because they're not worshiping no Jesus that's white or no Arabian person or whatever, a prophet. They worship a light-skinned black man. So that's pretty much kind of who they follow. That man taught Elijah Muhammad, and Elijah Muhammad pretty much, he died, left his son Warf Deen Muhammad to lead the Nation Islam, and then kind of pretty much a war ensued between Farrakhan, which is one of Elijah Muhammad's followers, main head like followers, or you could say assistants. So when Elijah Muhammad died in the 70s, he left everything to his son, which his son wanted to go towards Islam, Orthodox Islam. And this is very important because one of the things that is important about this story is this is primarily why there's a lot of black people that are actually Muslims in this country. A lot of them are Muslims because they split off from the Nation Islam, went to Orthodox Islam in the 70s, 60s, and so forth. So it's a big deal as far as, the actual origin story of how these black people converted into Islam, primarily from splitting off from the Nation Islam. Now, from that war between Warf Deen Muhammad and Elijah Muhammad, Elijah Muhammad's assistant, Louis Farrakhan, Warf Deen Muhammad just basically stepped aside and said, you can do whatever you want to. I'm just going to take the path of peace and just do my own thing with Orthodox Islam. And then basically Elijah Muhammad's assistant, Louis Farrakhan, resurrected the Nation Islam and just started his own path with being a leader of the Nation Islam. So this is like 70s, early 80s. And then he got funding because he didn't have any money. He got funding from basically Gaddafi in Libya. So basically Libya, which was ran by Omar Gaddafi, funded him millions of dollars so he can basically buy Elijah Muhammad's old mansion, do some things within his organization which is the Nation Islam, and complete that resurrection. So that is the story that's very, very important about all of this, to kind of help you make sense of what is being talked about. Because if I don't tell you that baseline, you'll be kind of confused. And then also to add, Elijah Muhammad, his speeches are in analog and it's very old. These are on tapes. So the audio quality is probably not going to be that good. Okay. So keep that in mind as well as I continue on.
Walk around and play with him till he's an old man. And then it's civilization. So it is with therapy human beings.
I'll do CC, so maybe it could come up.
Tigers are not their own species, but rather the result of a double recessive gene that results in a condition called leucism. Leucism takes away from the tiger's pigmentation, giving them their white coat and blue eyes.
When you do that to any living germ, then you have made a devil. Yes, sir. Yakub did that 6,000 years ago with human beings. Right. The scientists of the day are beginning to get to the point where they can do it with other creatures. So you have a white mouse and a white rat, or even though at home, there are mice and rats that you got at home. You know the ones I mean. You ain't never surprised a white mouse in your kitchen. Have you? You ain't never caught a white rat in no trap, have you?
I will tell you this story to add to this. I never forgot when I was in my grandma's kitchen and I opened up the cupboard. I don't even know if that's called a cupboard. It was like basically a cabinet. Okay, it was a cabinet. And it was a roach in the cabinet. I don't know, like some of the people dear and near to my heart had a tolerance that I don't have, and for insects, primarily roaches. And yeah, like I saw this roach, and I never forgot that this roach was very tripped out. It was an albino roach, and I never saw an albino roach before until that day. And I was about maybe 11, maybe between 9 and 11 years old. Like, and I saw this albino roach, and I think I still killed it. I didn't give it no, like, I didn't make a big deal out of it much, but I just never saw this before. Yakub didn't necessarily graft that roach, nor did any scientist graft that roach. It just was an albino roach. I mean, I literally saw an albino roach. Like, I mean, it's like one of those weird things about life. You just, this was definitely before there were like, I mean, available cameras and definitely no cell phone cameras and anything like that. And it was just one of those things. Like, you gotta believe I saw albino roach, because I did, and it was very tripped out.
Although the scientists have made such creatures for scientific experimentation. Well, if you can do that with a mouse or rat or rabbit, any hunters in the audience? You ever go out in the field hunting and come home with a white rabbit? No, you ain't never found a white rabbit out there running in the field. But they exist, don't they? In a laboratory, made by some scientist for an experiment. Well, what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is saying is exactly the same thing. That 6,600 and some odd years ago, Yakub grafted original black people and made a people that were unalike, that we call Caucasian. The word Caucasian meaning stale face and weak bones.
How wise this black man was, that at 4 years old, he entered school. At 6 years old, he had an epiphany and came to knowledge of his mission in life. At 18 years old, he had completed every educational institution in Arabia at the time, during which he spent a lot of time in laboratories under microscopes, examining the genome of the black man and woman. So he was a prodigy. That's the point of dropping out there big-headed scientists.
He wasn't allowed to do his grafting in Arabia, so their ship sailed out to an island in the Aegean Sea called Pilan. In the Bible, it's called Patmos. He established a system of policies, procedures, and laborers. His laborers consisted of doctors, ministers, nurses, and cremators.
Doctors, nurses, ministers, and cremators. Those hospital officials were the very ones, or hospital personnel, were the very ones responsible for executing the plan to create the white race by killing the darker. And so we find that the hospital today still imbibes the spirit of Yakub's work. That's why the hospital, I have said in discussing the scientific assault on Black America, that the hospital, which was set up to experiment on poor people, primarily poor Black people, that it's a very dangerous place for the Black man and woman. I think it was Sister Dr. Washington who called, or who described medical apartheid.
Yeah.
And when you recall the scientific death that the apartheid regime unleashed on Black people, if the medical establishment here in America, if the hospitals can be described as medical apartheid, that appropriately hints at the scientific death that Black patients are met with. And yes, this is a legacy of the work of Yakub. His laborers were doctors and nurses then, and his laborers are doctors and nurses today.
How did Yakub make them? It was through a process of controlling the birth of babies. If I wanted to breed horses, could I let the horses go out there and mate any kind of way they want to? No, sir. If I was breeding dogs or cattle or sheep or any creature like that, if I want to breed a certain type of cattle or sheep or goat or whatever, don't I have to control them? Yes, sir. And make sure that I choose who mates with who? Right. Well, that's what Yakub did. He set up a system like that to control the mating of human beings, because he was trying to produce certain characteristics in human beings that normally would not occur.
6,600 years ago. Well, if that is so, is that a teaching of hate? You said that the thing that causes us to be listed as a hate group is our teaching on Yakub. My question to you is, can you, with all of your scientists, disprove what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has said of you? You are not an ancient people. You are new people on our planet. You had to have a place of origin, and you had to have a source from which you originated.
Now, I don't know anything about like research as far as like I've never did a deep dive into the origins of white people. You know, I mean, the 6,000-year-old theory, I have not did any research on that. Like, um, I'm gonna close once this closes out. As far as this video is about 40 minutes long. I'm gonna give my like closing arguments as far as like what my theories are as far as the whole Yakub theory. But yeah, like the 6,000-year-old theory, I don't know if that's been proven false or they like found some information. I mean, you know, I'll go into that once this, and actually this video is actually over an hour long, so yeah, bear with me.
You even put out a movie called Children of a Lesser God. And Yakub was a god, all right, but he was a lesser god to the God who originated the heavens and the earth and all in between. You are a scientific experiment that we did with ourselves to see whether evil had the same power as good. So in the germ of the black man, the life germ, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that Yakub saw the brown germ in the life germ of the black man, a black germ and a brown germ. And he said that if he could separate that brown germ, he could drive it into its last stage and clothe it with flesh and give it form and expression. And that Mr. Yakub did. Yakub was born 20 miles outside of the city of Mecca in Arabia. Go to the book of Habakkuk. It says God came from Teman and the Holy One from Mount Paran. These are two cities in Arabia. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad asked, which one of these two would you take for your Lord? The God that came out of Teman or the Holy One from Mount Paran? Arabia is the birthplace of Yakub. It is where he taught the 30% who were dissatisfied to follow him. But the rulers of Arabia would not allow him to make his people on that peninsula. So they assigned him to the island of Pilan or Patmos in the Aegean Sea. And there he took his followers, and the process of grafting white out of black began. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said it took 600 years. The process was a birth control process, a selective breeding process where you married the lighter on to the lighter, and you killed the darker, saved the lighter, marrying the lighter on to the lighter. And after 200 years, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said God revealed to him that there was a brown civilization on our planet. And 200 more years of that same process, a yellow civilization was in existence. And 200 years after that, that same process continued for 600 years. And at the end of that time, there was a blonde-haired, blue-eyed creature on our planet that is called the Caucasian.
So this man discovered this, as I first said, according to the teachings of Almighty God to me, by the journey. And it still can be proven today that the black man have two people in it.
How, sir?
Yes, sir. You have to.
How can this be proved?
By the you have here. Take for an instant. Well, let me come to the surface first. You go to the darkest people that you can find in Africa, where that they has never been touched by Caucasian people, and you will find that one will be a little shader browner than the other. And this man set up a birth control law to take that browner one and marry the browner one on to the browner one and kill off the black. And he kept this going for 600 years. First, he had a little brown race of people after 200 years. And the next 200 years, he had a little yellow race of people, red race, you'd say. And the next 200 years, he had a pale white.
Method of birth control.
Yes, he killed the black baby and saved the brown one. Or killed the brown one, saved the brown one. Killed the brown one and saved the yellow one. You see, the yellow one saved, that is until he run it into its last stage. And the last stage is white. And that can be done today. It is not nothing that is a mystery, impossible. It can be done today. But I don't think that they want any more graphics. I think they about got enough of that. Yes. And the black is the original. He's the father of them all.
All these other races are derivatives of the black race.
That's right. That's right.
Because look, I know you're a wise man, and so you must understand that I'm a baby in wisdom, but I'm not a fool. And he's saying here today that the Caucasian is in fact the oldest group on the planet. I beg to differ. Look, one of the most famous anthropologists is Professor Leakey. And when Professor Leakey went in search of the origin of human beings and human species, he didn't stop very long in Europe. He went to Africa. And the oldest bones and the oldest human beings to this day that you call Zinjanthropus, using the Latin meaning Zin and Xanthropus, meaning a black man, that oldest man, they say, is millions of years old. You went back and found one even older than that. You called her Lucy, a black woman.
Go ahead.
And every sensible historian, anthropologist today agrees that the black man is the father of human beings. Even your geneticist, Mr. Mendel.
Go ahead.
You have Mendel's law.
Go ahead.
Mendel says that light eyes are recessive. Light skin is recessive. You can take the recessive, the dark skin is dominant, the dark eyes are dominant. You can take the recessive from the dominant, but you can't get the dominant from the recessive. This is Mendel's law. And so all of your scientists have proved that you can't look. Black is not even a color.
That's right.
Black is the mother and father of all colors. And if you want a baby, even if the woman is a white woman, the baby has to come out of the triple darkness of her womb. And this is the origin of all life. Within the black, you have the whole color spectrum. But in white, two white people laying down together, they can only produce white. But two black people in darkest Africa can lay down together and produce albino with blonde hair and blue eyes.
That's right. Teach Muhammad.
This happens all the time. And so we need to really get these facts correct today and understand that as gray as your hair is, you are listening to your father today.
Teach, Muhammad.
This is daddy talking.
Teach.
And we mustn't turn. No, this is true. I'm not mocking.
The Honorable
Huh?
Elijah Muhammad taught us that John the Revelator is Yakub, the father of this present world and the maker of the Caucasian race of people from the brown germ of the original black man. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us, and it's right there in the first chapter of Revelations. John is saying, I, John, for a testimony for Jesus Christ on the Isle of Patmos for the word of the Lord. Patmos, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us, is really the island of Pilan, where the Caucasian race was brought into existence. John's testimony was of Jesus Christ, because John was on that island looking forward to the time when his people would be made from the black, and then the brown, and then the yellow, and then the final stage of the grafting process, white. And that people then were permitted to come back into the Holy Land. And within 6 months, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has taught us, they turned the Holy Land upside down. And so they were gathered and cable towed, and everything was taken from them except the language. And they were marched 2,200 miles into the hills and cave sides of Europe, where they remained for 2,000 years of their 6,000 years to rule. But John, the Revelator, was looking at the coming of Jesus Christ, whose presence in the world would symbolize the end of his civilization and the end of his people. So John said, when this one came, he would say, I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the ending. He represents the original people of the earth who have suffered for 6,000 years under the contrary rule of the Caucasian people.
Look at that scripture in Revelations, chapter 6, verse 8. It says, and I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that rode upon him was Death. Now wait a minute, who's speaking here? Come on, good question. Said I. Well, who is the I that is speaking? Well, it's the author of the book of Revelations. Right. Come on. If you go back to the beginning of the book of Revelations, which is the last book placed in the Bible, it is actually called the Revelation of St. John the Divine, from the Isle of Patmos. Now, despite the fact that it is placed last among the books of the Bible, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said Revelations really was the first book written of the Bible. But it is placed last because it is the revelation showing you the end times of the present world of 6,000 years. Yes, sir. It was actually written more than 6,000 years ago. Well, if it was written more than 6,000 years ago, then how could the author of the book be a man called John? Since John is an English name, and the English language is only 700 years old. Wait, come on. How could that man have been called John? Come on. They must have just recently started calling him John. So what was he called before he got to be called John?
Maybe Juan.
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad says that the English name John is derived from the Hebrew Jacob. But even that does not solve the problem because Hebrew is just a little over 4,000 years old. So what was the man's name before he was called Jacob? Well, now you're back to the original language, Arabic, and in Arabic his name was Yakub.
An interview to Henry Louis Gates, professor from Harvard in New Yorker magazine, where he asked you whether you still subscribe to the teachings of Elijah Muhammad on Yakub, a black scientist who 6,600 years ago created the white man, and that by the end of the 20th century, a spaceship will come and rain down upon white people and people who don't embrace Islam. Do you subscribe to the teachings of Yakub, that Yakub, the black scientist, created the white man?
I subscribe to every word that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us. You know, it's not unreal to believe that white people who genetically cannot produce yellow, brown, or black had a black origin. The scholars and scientists of this world agree that the origin of man and mankind started in Africa, and that the first parent of the world was black. The Quran says that God created Adam out of black mud and fashioned him into shape. So if white people came from the original people or black people, what is the process by which you came to life? That is not a silly question. That is a scientific question with a scientific answer. It doesn't suggest that we are superior or that you are inferior. It suggests, however, that your birth or your origin is from the black people of this earth. Superiority and inferiority is determined by our righteousness and not by our color.
So Yakub, a black scientist, created whites.
We believe that, yes. John in the Bible, in Patmos, who was on the Isle of Patmos, which is in the Aegean Sea, for the word of the Lord, which is to let us make man in the image of the original.
The characteristics of the white man is evil. He was made like that through nature, now we say. Naturally, he was made like that. We would say, then devil. We can say a devil cat out there, a devil element, a devil we could call most any grafted thing a devil, you see. But actually, when we say Satan, we mean a man or a people that their weakness is not, say, confined to themselves.
You know what's interesting about this though is that in World War I and World War II, they were black regiments in the army. Also the Marines, they were like black only regiments. They weren't integrated. The military was not integrated. So it was basically all black regiments. And one of those regiments, primarily, it was called the Harlem Hellfighters. They were so effective in the war against the Germans actually called them devils. They called them whatever in German, whatever the word devil in German, they called them devils because they were so efficient at killing Germans that the Germans called them devils. True story. Like some people may know more about history than others. I mean, like some people are not really interested in reading. They don't really know a lot about history because they don't really read. But yeah, that's a true story. They literally called these blacks that were fighting for the U.S. Army and the U.S. Marines. devils because they were killing so many Germans, and they never saw any opponent like that, and they were just pretty much the only thing they could justify it was calling them devils. True story. So when I hear that, you know, I mean, another thing is this is an obvious, just kind of question to ask. Well, if a black man created the devil, which is the white man, wouldn't that make him a devil too? Or would he be the father of the devils? Or how does that work? How does he be excluded from the conversation of being a devil? And I think they go more into depth about that in the book. I don't know if they're going to explain it in this video as far as the different conversations they've had. But wouldn't the father be the devil as well? Like, I mean, those questions as far as are kind of confusing to a certain extent, and it was confusing when I read it over 20 years ago.
It spreads, and the others is affected by their wickedness. And the white man, we say, is the devil. Why? Because of his weak, physically coming into being from the original man, aboriginal people of the earth. The race question, the origin of the races. In the beginning of the races, they numbered around 4. And from these 4 races of people, they has produced many different types of people. But they are not, say, independent in their beginning. They came from one. We say today we have lots of various colored people all over the earth, from we say from brown to white. We are not all the same color due to intermixing with such colors as black, brown, yellow, and red and white. This has produced many other various colors. And the origin of it, according to the teachings of Master Farad Muhammad, to me, was from a scientist, a God. We see him. We see him as a God. Back 6,000 years ago, started we say a scientific, or I should say, a master grafting work on the human being to produce a new civilization, a new race of people from the original race of people, our aboriginal people. This man, Yakub, who discovered in the dream of the black man that he had 2 people in him, and that he had learned through study and experimenting on germs that this second germ could produce a powerful people that would be able to rule that which they came from for around 6,000 years until the father, the Aboriginal, produces one superior to his man. And that was this, that he taken
through experimental work on the germ of man, a people of what we call today a white race. But before he produced it, that white race, he produced it a brown race. He produced it a yellow race, and so on. There is his first grafting from the black man according to the teachings of Master Farad Muhammad, to whom we see him and know him today as being God in person. That this grafting, uh, in its first stage, he had a brown race of people from a black people. And it taken him, according to the teachings of God, 200 years to produce that brown race. And he kept up the process of killing off the browner or the darker one and marrying the lighter one onto the lighter one. For another 200 years, he had yellow race of people. And in this length of time, these brown people were spreading over the area, I would say migrating over the earth to find them a home to themselves. And so when the yellow race was produced, he started too migrating over the earth. And from the yellow race, about 200 years, this grafting kept in process. Uh, they, there was on this same islet, well, it was an islet he was on, according to the teachings of Almighty God to me, in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, to whom praise is due forever. At that time, 200 years, keeping up birth control law. This is what he established. He established it on this islet, and there was his lab that he was working, we call it a human lab, to produce his man. And from this yellow race, he had a white race 200 years later from them. And this was the end of his work. This was the man he was trying to get to. That was our white race. And that made it, in the total time of his.
The thing is like, what if this is true though? I mean, what? Like, I mean, I'll say this. I don't think this story is true. But what if it was true? Like, I mean, what if this actually is not a tinfoil hat theory? It's an actual history lesson. Like, what if that actually did happen? That would be kind of even more creepy. But like I say, I don't really think this. I don't think this happened. Like, I mean, some of the stuff that I have read and I've heard is like from the Nation of Islam and what they kind of like talk about and stuff. It's like very much centered on what they think, like what they believe. Like, I don't necessarily believe that shit, but I mean, I just I have to put that out there.
Grafting out of black, white, 600 years. And this figure tallies with the Bible's teaching of the man being created in 6 days. This days here you have means a thousand, pardon me, 100 years each, 600 years. And this also tallies with the creation of the universe. That's six, the whole entire universe, according to the Quran, was also created in six periods of time. And so Mr. Yakub, the mighty scientist of that time, he produced his man on six because it did tally with the creation of the universe. And it was to this number that he could not further his work. And they would be masters, gods, to rule the earth and the people, everything of life for 6,000 years. And at the end of 6,000 years, the Aboriginal people will have at that time produced another one, mightier than Yakub in wisdom and knowledge. And he would be equal with that one that created the heavens and the earth. And he would have the power and the infinitive wisdom to make his word be as the first one. And this is the man we have before us today, to whom praise is due. Master Farad Muhammad is that man that have the wisdom or the knowledge, excuse me, of how the creation took place in the first.
I'll tell you who was in the nation. I'll tell you who was in the nation, though, in case you didn't know. She's probably more popular than I am. This is who was in the nation here.
That's 50. I hope you didn't mind if I ask you if we can kick it. I need stimulation intellectually, sapiosexually. I feel electricity when you're next to me. You got that fine-tuned energy, divine masculinity, and yes, I desire for you to enter me. Though you's a physical entity, the spiritual chemistry connects us on the level of infinity. Cause what I'm singing is a god-like figure, dark chocolate and color, the same one they call nigga now. You got me feeling like yes, you a king to me, you a king to me, yeah.
My sensei, he was in the nation. I took jujitsu for like close to 3 years. My sensei was he was in the nation, and then my my sensei's sensei, he was also he was one of the head bodyguards for the Nation Islam. So I had like basically very close dealings with people from the Nation Islam, because my jujitsu class or dojo was part of pretty much the nation. I mean, like it's kind of tripped out. Like I learned jujitsu from Nation of Islam cats or dudes, but I wasn't in the nation. So I learned how to kick ass like a Nation Islam dude, but I wasn't in the nation. It's like it's kind of tripped out. Like I actually just I was part of a jujitsu branch or family that's pretty much in the Nation of Islam, but I personally was not in the Nation of Islam. It's kind of tripped out, but I'm not making it up.
In the Quran, in the 30th verse of the 2nd chapter, it reads, "And when thy Lord said to the angels, I am going to place a ruler in the earth, the angels said to their Lord, wilt thou place in it such as make mischief in it and shed blood? And we celebrate thy praise and extol thy holiness." Allah said, "Surely I know what you know not." Here is the Lord of the angels saying, I am going to place in the earth a ruler, somebody who is going to give rules and guidance to the people of the earth. And the angels questioned God, saying, wilt thou place in it such as make mischief in it and shed blood? The angels saw that what was about to rule the earth would be one who would make mischief in the earth and cause the shedding of blood. If, beloved listeners, Allah is the author of peace and not of confusion, He is the author of justice and righteousness and truth. But here is a ruler coming to the earth that is going to make mischief in the earth and cause the shedding of blood. Right there is the making of a devil.
When the white man saw gold, he went mad. He called it a gold rush. And he started to kill people for a metallic object. The white man, he came into what he called a new world.
Teach, Muhammad.
And so all of a sudden you started to name things.
Teach, Muhammad.
So that's why you called it America, based on what was his name? Amerigo Vespucci, a Caucasian.
Africa.
That's why you called it Africa, based on the European explorer called Africanus. You went into America, you called it New York.
That's right.
Because it was new to you.
New England.
You called it New England.
That's right.
You called it New Zealand. You called it Newfoundland. Because it was new to you. But to us, we were already there. That's why we're called aboriginals.
From
meaning abstracted from the Father,
Muhammad,
from God Himself, original, meaning the first. But you won't find Caucasian people calling themselves aboriginal anywhere on the planet.
Teach, Muhammad.
Because you're the new man, Paul Newman.
Teach.
You're a brand new man to the planet. And I say it again, because I know you think we're joking. And we don't back up from this one iota.
Teach.
Now, in a tripped out way, I do believe that. I do believe that they would have to be, if they were the last man, right? Like they are the last man, right? And it's tripped out that I mentioned martial arts, right? Martial arts actually goes into the color system. I just forgot. I just reminded myself. So usually the color system is white belt first. After you get your white belt, you go into yellow belt. Then after yellow belt, and it differs from different martial art systems and stuff. So after yellow belt, you go into green belt. Then green belt to purple belt. Then brown belt. Then finally black belt. Now, obviously, the green and the purple can't really make sense of that other than, dinosaurs. I mean, green alien men. I mean, I don't know. But the thing is like you start with the first one, which is white belt. Now, in genetics or even anthropology, white people have to be the last man, right? Like that. There was a show that I used to watch. It was kind of corny, and it was on Fox like years ago. And it was this dude. He was the last man on Earth, but apparently I guess over the course of the show, he started to find people that he basically found out he wasn't the last man on Earth. But I mean, like basically, I do agree with that. Like as far as if you follow the logic, I mean, basically, like white people would be the last quote unquote man, as far as of humanity. that would make sense as far as logic to me.
We made you. We made you through a process of genetic engineering. 6,000 years ago, from one blood came all human beings, but we produced you from us. Because within us, there are two germs, a black one and a brown one. This is not to you. This is not.
It's like maybe like 30 minutes left. It's like 30 minutes left. Bear with me.
Insulting language. This is science. And we found within ourselves a contrary nature. And so we engineered this from ourselves, and it was produced as a Caucasian human being. And the first one of you that came on the planet was just 6,600 years ago. What was the point that you mentioned? Humus. Look at this. Even the word human. You've heard the term of a darker hue. Human, meaning a dark man. Human, a man of color. That's why the topsoil of the earth is called humus. It is the dark organic material that gives life to the earth. Whenever you take away the dark organic material or you denature it, you're left with white granulated sand. Desert. You want to see those of us who think that white, something to glorify in. No. Do you know that there's no such thing as a white mice found in nature? Do you know that all white mice were manufactured because they are weak, and that's the only kind of mice that they can really do laboratory experimentation on? And so they have produced them through genetic engineering. A white rabbit, you'll never find a white rabbit running in nature. That was put there from a laboratory. And so you got to understand that white intrinsically is the weakest.
That is not true. The Arctic rabbit is white. The Arctic rabbit, yeah. See, like that's definitely not true, because I do know about the Arctic rabbit because over my life I watch a shit ton of Natural Geographic and Nature Channel and Discovery Channel and all that. I can sit and watch nature documentaries for hours. I used to watch it with my father. Like, I can watch nature fucking all day and not really be bored. Especially lions and hyenas and all of that shit. Like, yeah, the Arctic rabbit for sure is white. I mean, obviously because it's around a bunch of snow. And no, I don't think any organic scientists just made these rabbits that way. It was made by fucking nature because of the Arctic is being, full of snow and ice.
Side of black. White is not the strength. White is in fact the weak aspect. And so when you want real flour, you go and get yourself some whole grain flour. You gotta go and get whole meal. It's gotta have the whole meal in it. It's called brown flour. And that's the one that wise people eat. You don't eat this, but then you make the white flour, which you've totally denatured, and you call it mighty white. When you look at the great white shark, it's not white. You're so desperate to have white things that are great that you call it a great white. You call it the great white whale. It's not a white whale, not white. It's black or gray, but it's not white. You can't get a heavyweight.
You know what? I really never really put that together. I never really thought about that. Yeah, like uh, most sharks are gray in color for whatever reason. Some are darker, but yeah, a great white shark is gray, which is actually my favorite color. But yeah, it's gray. It's not white. I never really thought about it. I was like, why is it called? Yeah, why is it called a great white shark? It's definitely not white. It's gray. You do not want to actually see a great white shark. Also, that's you don't really want to see no shark. I remember when I was in Pensacola, Florida. I was there in boot camp, and that was like my first time actually being close to the ocean. I didn't even get in the ocean. I didn't get in the ocean. It was like my first time. And one of the reasons why I did not get in the ocean, obviously, because I didn't want to fuck around with no fucking sharks. And here's the thing, right? It's one thing to swim in a lake or a river or a pond. It's another fucking thing to swim in a fucking ocean. Okay? It's a totally different experience. And I mean, obviously, right? Most of the earth is ocean, it's water. I think like what 70-80% of the earth is water. So I didn't get into Atlantic Ocean. I mean, I had a chance to go to the Pacific Ocean too when I was in San Diego. Um, the thing is, I didn't get into the ocean, to the Atlantic Ocean, till actually I think my cousin, he used to live in Jacksonville, Florida. That was the first time I got in the beach, actual ocean, and I got in the shoreline. I didn't go out deep, but my whole point is when I went to Pensacola for training, for airman training in 2001, I remember a little baby boy, black boy too, got killed by a shark. He got killed by some type of tiger shark or mako shark or something like that. Because it's sharks that obviously are smaller than great white. If you see a great white shark, I mean that will probably you probably would shit your pants probably first before you die. Probably would piss and shit on yourself first, depending on who you are. I mean, um, I don't know if that really matters who you are, but what I heard is you gotta go for the eyes, if that helps. But I mean, you don't know how people don't have no idea how big of a fucking shark, a great white shark, actually is. Um, the jawline alone is like the circumference of. I mean, I don't even know. Like it's pretty wide. So you talking about a fucking shark like just opening up, engulfing, trying to engulf you before you even hit the damn thing. Like you know, you, I mean, you to fight something that big. Like I don't know. Like you'd have to hear some surfer stories or some shit or some diver stories because I don't really know too many people that survived a great white shark attack. I mean, like I would probably have. I'd rather fight with a male lion than a great white shark, and I wouldn't even fuck around with no male lion. But if I had to choose between a great white shark, quote unquote, or a male lion, I'll take my fucking chances with a male lion. At least I'm on land. A damn ocean, you in the ocean with a great white. I mean, you at a huge fucking disadvantage. But yeah, I never really thought about that shit. Like, yeah, what yeah, it's technically great.
you're looking for a great white hope. You try and turn Frank Bruno into a white man in desperation. This is real. I'm saying it's a psychological thing with white people where you want to find.
I don't know if you didn't pick this up. This is Hyde Park in England, in London, I believe. No, this is not in the United States. They have the Nation of Islam like in different parts of the world. They got, I think, in like the Caribbean and definitely in the UK. Ironically, they banned Farrakhan from actually coming to the UK. I don't know if that ban still exists. The Queen of England, when she was alive, they banned Farrakhan to come to the UK. So I don't know if that's still. I think that's still valid. It's a valid ban. He can't go to the UK. But they do have like they probably in Canada too. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that, but this guy's in the UK.
And your plates and your scientists and your historians that spend time asking the question, where do we come from? Because they are puzzled as to your origin. They ask the question, why do we kill the way we do? Because there's a different nature. You have a different nature to the rest of the members of the human family. Look at the Chinese, look at the Asians, look at the black people. All of us got dark eyes. All of us got black hair. The only one on the planet who's got ginger hair, blonde hair, brown hair, gray.
Also fucking not true. Also not true. Also not true. Not true at all. Very much not true. It's rare for black people to have blonde hair and green eyes and gray eyes and blue eyes, but there is a thing. Okay, there is a very much thing of basically there's a particular landmass or island. I believe it's an island where there's quote unquote black people with blonde hair and primarily I think it's Polynesia. Believe it's Polynesia or it's somewhere that is like close to Australia where they have like curly blonde hair. Tripped out thing, this hits close to home. This is like personal, like really personal. So my cousin, he was born with blonde hair and gray eyes. I mean, his daddy was light skinned. His mom, which is my aunt, was kind of like hazel complexion. He was born with blonde hair, gray eyes. He doesn't have gray eyes or blonde hair now, but he was born with blonde hair. A little light skinned boy, and his parents was both black. He's not mixed. He's born with blonde hair, gray eyes. That's rare, but it does happen. I didn't even really think about it when I was young. Like I didn't make a big deal out of it. Like it wasn't no big deal to me. It's like, oh, it's I was just be honest, I was thrilled that I had a boy cousin because most of my family was like girl cousins and wasn't that many boy cousins. I mean, so I ain't really think about it till like you see the baby photos and you like, damn, he did have blonde hair. I damn near forgot about it. I'm like, damn, he did have blonde hair. And I knew he had gray eyes. I knew his eyes was gray. I think they like light brown now, and then his hair color. Well, shit. Let me see. It's just dark brown. Yeah, but yeah, he had a afro, a little curly hair, a blonde. He had blonde curly hair with gray eyes. I think by the time he got to probably 9 years old, his hair color started changing, and then his eye color started changing. But you got people that have red hair, they're dark skin with blue eyes, gray eyes, green eyes. You see that even in Africa. It's rare, but it does happen. I mean, it's a rare trait. Like even me, I have the rarest trait that I have is I have a widow's peak. I have a deep widow's peak. Sometimes I got receding hair, so I have to sometimes it recedes. But I remember not too long ago, I took a picture and it's like, I have a Blade type, like from Marvel character, Blade type widow's peak. Like my widow's peak is like deeper than any other widow's peak. And that's rare. Only 10% of population have a widow's peak. But it's people that have all kinds of different eye colors amongst black people. It's rare, very, very rare, but it is a thing. And there's blind people of all races. Of like it's a rare genetic trait, but it's quite common in this island. Like I said, I believe it's Polynesia. It's one of those islands that's close to Australia. I'm actually trying to look it up right now. But I'm an avid poster, so I'm trying to find, like, I know it wasn't too long ago. I'm trying to pull this up because I'm into like anthropology. I'm into, definitely, genetic traits and shit like that too. I'm into that type of thing. So anything like that, I'm definitely reposting it, doing whatever I can to post it. Let me see here. I'm gonna play this and then I'm gonna try to find this though.
Yeah, brunette. You see, you gotta understand pedigree and understand moralization. I'm telling you the truth. You got a dog all spotted in all different colors. You call it other. But when you see a pedigree, it is uniformed. And it has a consistency to it. And the white man, you just came yesterday. And you are a mixture of us. You are the colored man. You are the one that's gone around the world making everything based on color. You were the one who went into Australia. You were the one who went into South Africa. You were the one who went into Asia and classified people and things based on color. That's why you call one of us octoroon, another one quadroon, another one half-caste, another one mulatto. I mean, these are classifications from you, not from us. We never saw people based on their color. We saw people as human beings. But the white man is the one who came along and made all of these classifications. So that's why this man, Yakub, he wasn't, and he just wanted to see if he could bring out from the black man the other side of the black man, the negative side of him, and make it live. And he was successful. After 600 years of grafting, he produced a Caucasian. And the Caucasian person is a person who is anti-nature. That's why when the sun comes out, I'm energized. Me and the sun, we got a relationship. I love the sun. I don't need no sunscreen. I don't get cancer from the sun. Me and the sun have got a good relationship. I love it and it loves me. But white people, you got to put sunblock on. You got to hide from the sun because now you might get a little melanoma. Part of me on you, that means your death. That's right. Why would the life giver, which is the sun, be against your very life? Why is it that instead of harmonizing with the planet, you're forever trying to fight against nature? Why is it that when I come out of my mother's womb as a baby, I've got natural rhythm? But white people, for you to learn to dance, you got to write it out, paint the steps on the floor. My women, they walk with a great house on their head in Africa and in the Caribbean by nature. Perfect balance. Finishing school, she has to have a little book placed on her head to teach her how to walk properly. Because it's not natural to you, but it's natural to us. It is natural to the black people. It comes out of us, a spider.
Now, what does he mean there? Well, number one, he teaches us that that never was a real serpent. It was not a real serpent that went into the garden. What was? But as you know, the Bible is written in symbols and parables, and this serpent or snake is a symbol that's used to hide the real identity of the one whom that actually was. Who was it? The white man. Now, is this your standard teaching? Yes. He teaches us that the black man by nature is divine. Now, does this mean that the white man by nature is evil? By nature, he cannot do good. History is thus qualified to reward all research, and we don't have any historic example where we have found that they collectively, as a people, have done good.
As you may recall in the Genesis.
The thing is the tripped out thing about that, like, some people will probably believe that. Now, don't get me wrong, like, okay, white people are very, very diabolical, extremely diabolical. But one thing you got to understand is, at one particular time or another, white people were not ruling the world. It was black people ruling the world. And the thing about ruling the world, you going back to Africa, the Egyptians, the Dogon tribe, you know, all of these tribes in Africa, all of these kingdoms in Africa, right? They was not all just chilling and having a good time. They were killing each other. They were warring with each other. The Egyptians used to war with the Nubians. The Egyptians used to war with different kingdoms. They used to, basically enslave other people. That was not white people doing that shit. It wasn't cookies and cream and ice cream and taffy apples being eaten in Africa before white people came down. Did they make it worse? Yeah, they made it worse when the Aryans came down and all of that. Yeah, like from India and went to Asia and all that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was definitely, it made it worse, but before that, and probably even the infighting amongst people in Africa probably made it vulnerable for Africans to be under attack by foreign invaders because there were already a lot of infighting. You know, uh, they were animals. They, competition, breeding rights, taking over villages, taking over other kingdoms. Okay, those things happen, and it's not like, black people before white people were, basically, uh, not ruling the world. Like black people were not evil. You Black people were evil too. The Pharaoh dungeons, and in those dungeons were animals. Any sign of disrespect or that they didn't like you or anything like that, they would send you to basically a dungeon. And in that dungeon, they had wild tigers and lions or whatever, probably most likely crocodiles and lions. And they was gonna eat you as soon as you dropped down in that dungeon. I mean, like that they would get off on that. Like, oh, send them to the dungeon. It probably wasn't, the word wasn't dungeon, okay? It was something else. But they had animals in some enclosed place. If basically, if Pharaoh or the Pharisee did not like any slight thing about you, you came before the royal court, the response that you gave for the question they asked, going right into that dungeon. And basically you have brown people and dark skinned people fighting each other. You see that in the art. I never forgot when I was younger, because both my mom, my grandma, they were into everything involving Egypt, and I used to read these books, and it was these artifacts of ancient Egypt, and you see the pictures, you see them on a chariot arresting some dark skinned people that were running away. You like, damn. I mean, those black people dealing with each other, but that's what you saw. You like, damn, this shit tripped out. That was running was dark skinned. They were like, they were robbers or marauders or basically convicts from trying to get away. It's like, damn, you see this shit. Just, I'm like, 12, 13 years old, I watched a book with niggas on chariots chasing dark skinned niggas across the desert. And it's like, it's like, damn, that shit's tripped out. But it's like, yeah, the whole narrative about the like black people all of a sudden are angelic and was devoid of evil. No, not at all, man. I mean, not by a long shot. The Etruscans literally invented the gladiator games, and the Etruscans was dark skinned, basically before the Greeks. They were like the fathers of and the gladiator games were not. If you don't know what the gladiator games is, go watch the movie Gladiator. Go watch Spartacus, the series Spartacus. I mean, it was literally a fight to the death. You watching people fight to the death. So it's like this whole theory of black people were angelic, devoid of evil, and then the white man just became the person that brought evil to the earth and all that. I mean, they brought a certain level of evil, no doubt. Okay, nuclear weapons, all kinds of different crazy ass weapons, diabolical, just all kinds of diabolical weaponry. Yeah, true. Do they destroy the planet with pollution, with capitalistic greed, dumping shit in the ocean, in the rivers, in the lakes? Yeah, they do that shit. I mean, other people call them out. They get, but yeah, that shit is fucked up, and I call them out for that shit. It's like all of the animals that's extinct and shit. Even the Chinese, they because they want to manufacture. It's all about manufacturing and profit and capitalism. Even they come in Africa and kill rhinos for the in elephants for the horns, so they can make some aphrodisiac uh, uh, types of medicine or natural healing, so they can fuck better. And it's like that killed a whole bunch of rhinos. That killed a whole bunch of elephants to the point where they have to guard the elephants and the rhinos, and they have to cut off a lot of the rhino horns and the elephant tusk to save their life, because these poor ass Africans that don't have no money, they trying to fucking catch rhino horns and elephant horns because these Chinese or Asians want to fuck and can't fuck without creating some fucking ivory shit to make compounds for aphrodisiacs. So it's like shit like that and then the last Asian rhino that was extinct like 3 or 4 years ago. All in the name of, capitalism, greed, not giving a fuck about the planet, not really truly giving a fuck about the future. Your kids are your future. So if your planet is fucked, your children gonna be fucked. So it's like it's like retarded, you know. They talk about Indians weren't doing nothing with America, but they weren't harming America's waterways, the land. They weren't doing all of that shit in the name of greed and capital. And I'm not a communist. Okay, I am not a communist. I'm very much a capitalist, but if it means I gotta kill my children in the future, if it means I have to destroy the planet because I want some money, I would rather you die. I'd rather you go get your ass, go drink the poison that you're trying to pollute. That's what I'd rather see. But people, so this very money hungry culture, very money hungry culture, and people like that are so money hungry, I want them to stay the fuck away from me because I'm not driven like that. People even think because I am pretty much into finance and pretty much a financial expert that I'm driven by solely money. And that is absolute false. But yeah, I mean, yeah, evil, the origin of evil is white people are not the fucking founders of evil.
Of the Bible, as well as in the Quran, the enemy is looked upon as a serpent. But as we said in a previous broadcast, serpents don't talk. So Satan is a human being. And remember, we said that there's something inside of the human being that is of God, but there's also something inside of the human being that is of the adversary of God.
The devil is something invisible that you can't see. He'll tell you hell is right where he has been catching it, and he'll tell you the one who is responsible for him having received this hell is the devil. And he would say that this devil is the white man. Yes.
See, this is the stuff that my father's side of the family, my cousins warned me over. They warned me, over these types of teachings and stuff, because the thing is this: the Arabs are the first quote unquote white man. They were the first. They were the ones that rounded up Africans, rounded up Asians, rounded up Europeans, and sold them off to slavery. Conquered different lands. Conquered Arabia from the Axum Empire, which was the Ethiopians. Conquered Africa, North Africa, East Africa, which is Egypt, and they still have a very much a superiority complex as well. And to say even they are holy than thou and not evil it's a big like farce, and they know it. One of the reasons why I don't that's one of the reasons why I do not practice quote unquote the religion of Islam, is primarily because of that history and that reality, and the fact that they don't give a fuck about how much of a Muslim you are. They don't want you dating their daughter or marrying their daughter, they don't like you. They know how the origin of how they took over with their religion and spread it all across Africa, Asia, and Arabia. They used it for conquest, just as the Europeans used Christendom for conquest. And that's that. And, a lot of Africans struggle with that reality. A lot of people struggle with that reality. And that reality is they are enslavers. They were one of the first enslavers. They taught white people how to enslave and to put Arabs as some type of holier than thou, holier than thou people is a farcity, is a big farce. One of the reasons why I stepped aside from that religion is these people is primarily the reason Africa is the way it is, why Africa is pretty much as poor as it is and is still under the foot of these Arabs and the Europeans, as well as other corrupt Africans. And that's the problem that I have with people from the Nation Islam, because they kind of don't really have it all together as far as, maybe, I don't know what they understandings is now. Obviously, this is Malcolm X, and he's separated from the Nation Islam, but they have some things that definitely I don't agree with.
What kind of education we've received in the wilderness of North America. The most wild. Now, this is a wild spot here. Is that right? Wildernesses are judged or ruled by beasts. So he said last week that we are under the number 6. And we've been taught and educated, raised and reared in a world that's not ruled by human beings, but is ruled by beasts in human form. This is what Yakub made. Yakub, he says, count the number of the beast, for it is also the number of a man, and his number is what? 6, 3 score, 6, 6, 6 and 6. Well, we live in Yakub's, do you bear witness? World, do you bear witness? Well, Yakub was 6 years old when he was playing with 2 pieces of metal. Is that right? Years. The average height of his maiden man was 6 feet tall.
So the whole, what he's talking about. So after Yakub theoretically finally created the white race, quote unquote, they were left to basically, I guess, on this island, and they left the island to wreak havoc amongst the earth. And they went to Arabia and caused havoc. Now, I mean, this is like kind of like, if you really follow the logic of this, why does it go? What does Mecca have to do with that? And it goes into this storyline of this man that they call God, which is Master Farad Muhammad, right? He's quote unquote allegedly from Mecca. All right, now it kind of like you got to understand the origins of these quote unquote organizations. From my research, basically, the Jehovah's Witness group was created from basically certain teachings, because the Jehovah's Witness actually had two revivals. It had like a couple revivals. The founder of the Jehovah's Witness faith, I don't remember his name, he was locked up in a mental health hospital, Elgin Mental Health Hospital in Elgin, Illinois. And his whole claim to fame was the world was going to end and join the nation or join the Jehovah's Witness group to have paradise. Well, he made a date, and once that date came, the world didn't end, and pretty much he came back, went into I guess the mental hospital, came out and said it's gonna happen again, and it's like they had like a revival. And long story short, either the Nation Islam got something from the Jehovah's Witnesses, or the Jehovah's Witnesses got something from the Nation Islam to basically start their kind of organization. And some people say this is the theory that some people say. Some people say all of this is the Jesuits. All of this, the Christian, basically the Baptists, the Catholics, even they say Islam is the Jesuits. Like that may be like far fetched, but they say all of the Jesuits is like all of Christendom, even Jehovah's Witness groups, and even the Nation Islam. They're all Jesuits. Like I don't know. Like I mean, that's this is like I say, man. If you listen to this, if your mental health is troubled, like you might not want to watch this. You know, it might make your mental health a little bit more troubled. There are similarities to the Jehovah's Witness faith and the Nation Islam. It's very similar. Like basically, a lot of the things is kind of like a cult-like type of organization where you can't do certain things, and it's very kind of cult-like, right? And it's like it's certain similarities that with the Jehovah's Witness type of organization and the Nation Islam. Okay, there's some information on there. I don't necessarily know where it is, but this is just from my research, and the similarities of them is just like the cult type of like organizational like group of both of them, because they're both kind of very similar to a cult where you're in this group and you shouldn't do this and you shouldn't talk to this person. You should, like, literally one of the things about people in the Jehovah's Witness like organization, they're told not to talk to anybody outside of Jehovah's Witness faith, or have friendships, join other organizations, play in sports and all kind of other stuff. Because it's a type of cult type of environment or organization. well, type of things that you can't do and associations and all that type of stuff. But they have different rules under Elijah Muhammad versus different rules under Louis Farrakhan. So it's a lot of stuff that is esoteric and it's theories that they believe in and stuff like that. The Jehovah's Witness believe in paradise. If you be a good Jehovah's Witness, you're gonna be in the paradise. You're going to go to paradise. Everybody else that's not Jehovah's Witness is worldly people. That's what they're into.
He had 6 ounces of grafted brain. His first world war was in 1914. When you add 1, 9, 1, and 4, it equals 15, and 1 and 5 is what? 6. World War II, 1941. 1, 9, 4, 1, 15 again, and the 1 and the 5 is what? Vietnam War, 1950. 1, 9, 5, 0, 15 again, and the 1 and the 5 is what? 6. If you died in that war, you were carried by 6 pallbearers. And when they buried us 6 feet deep. The police badge got a 6-point star with 6 angles that are 60 degrees. Six-shooter.
Well, I must have cheated that because I was 5 when I started kindergarten, because my birthday aligned with the same school year. Most Virgos and even Leos, because of where their birthday aligns, they'll be 5 by the time school starts. So I started school at 5 years old. I didn't have to wait a year because my birthday was on the same time that the school cycle started. So yeah, yeah. So but most people, yeah, if your birthday is after that year, um, I don't know, you might have to wait a year or something. I don't know. But the thing is that yeah, it's a lot of associations with 6. It is a lot of associations with 6. Some police officer or some police departments have 5-point stars. A lot of them have 6. It's a lot of things with 6, right? The Star of David is 6 points, and this country is a Judaic Christian country. Primarily, you'd have to study. See, the reason why this country is a Judaic Christian country, you have to go back and research the Inquisition, and then the rise of the Moors in Europe, Spain, Portugal, France, Italy. Then go into the Crusades, and then you'll understand. Primarily, you'll understand from Inquisition. How Inquisition basically will help you understand why you were enslaved in America, primarily black people, why you were enslaved, because that have everything to do with the Inquisition. That's the books that I started reading. One of the first books that I started reading, because my mother was in the Nation of Islam, was The Message to the Black Man. That's where this Yakubian story came to be about. But when I started to get more in depth into reading, I started reading other books. And then I joined the Navy, and I used some of my money to buy more books. And one of those books that I bought because other sailors were talking about the Moors. I kept hearing these things about the Moors. So I bought the book, The Golden Age of the Moor by Ivan Van Sertima. Then once I read that book, that book puts you back over to where to in Africa. And it basically is the story of how you actually got to America on chains. Your ancestors got put on chains and put in boats, because what happened is that once the Moors was kicked out of Spain and Portugal and parts of Europe, rounded up and kicked out, they were sent back to Africa, North Africa, and also West Africa. And fighting and civil war ensued, because now you have these Muslims, they don't have anywhere to go. They got kicked out of Spain, Portugal, France, Italy, wherever. Some of them remained, a lot of them remained in Europe. A lot of people see this is the story. I have to talk about whitewashing of history. This is why you don't know that Europe was pretty much a mixed cultural environment. The narrative that's pushed and has been pushed for hundreds of years is that Europe was all white and it was no other people besides white people. I'm not going to go into why they did it, it's obvious, but the Europe was very much multicultural. It was black people in Europe, from lowly peasants to high nobility, kings, queens, princes, princesses, knights, whatever. They were all in Europe. So the thing is that those Moors, once they got kicked out of Europe, they went into North Africa and they started to fight the Africans. And that created tribal vacuums, civil war, the captives sent to slave dungeons, traded for rum, guns, ammunition, all kinds of different things that the Europeans traded these chiefs and kings for these slaves to be sent to America, sent to South America, the Caribbean. That story of the Moors getting kicked out of Europe, Queen Isabella of Spain starting the Inquisition, punishing the Jews because the Jews was in cahoots with the Arabs, and the basically Moors were black, curly-haired Muslims of African origin. Punished those both parties, kicked them out of Europe, made it hard for the Jews, because the Jewish faith is very similar to Islam. It's very similar. There's a lot of similarities. Both are quote unquote Semitic people, Semites. But the thing is that these Jews saw opportunity for profit. They knew these slaves were getting rounded up because they worked with these Muslims. They made money off of making slave ships, transporting slaves. Then in America, they had slave plantations. A lot of the Jewish people were slave plantation owners, slave masters, ship owners, because they saw what was going on. They saw this was going to be big, it was going to be a profit potential, and they made a lot of money off of the slave trade. And these are the things that you don't know because you don't read history. Okay. And the thing is that they got really, really rich over those hundreds of years of slavery. They brought that money back because the Jewish people are very tight knit, very organized. They have family already in Europe. They were in America. They, basically were traveling by ship. It only takes probably back then, 15, 1600s, 1700s. It only takes maybe a couple months to travel by ship from Europe to America, or other parts of the Caribbean, South America might be a little bit longer, but they were traveling even back then. They were trading information, they were trading money. That is why the Europeans, Jews, were so rich in, Germany, Austria, Italy, France. They were very, very rich because they were making money off of the slave trade in America for centuries. So, I mean, these are very, very important historical times in history that a lot of people just don't know. You wouldn't know this. They don't even teach you this in college. They don't even teach you this in college because these things are, they don't. A lot of things don't want to be known. Like you would have to really do some research. And actually, this is why self-education is very, very important, because it's certain things that you wouldn't know because it's kind of hidden knowledge in a certain extent. Like, now there's, documentaries, it's even white people telling you the story of, the Moors and, Europe and all of that. But this is pre-slavery history. It's directly pre-slavery history. So the people that know this history, they're not the people that talking about we're Indians and we're not African. The people that know this history, like myself, they don't think like that, and they don't say stuff like that because they're educated. A lot of the people that talk about the whole pretendian stuff and we're not African, you can tell these people they lack knowledge and they lack education because they don't know the history of pre-slavery. They don't know the pre-slavery history. The pre-slavery history is very, very important. And once I got that pre-slavery history, I mean, I went through hell because my mind, a lot of times, that's why I say if your mental health is in bad shape, do not, don't watch this, try to maybe come back when your mind is a little bit better, because a lot of times your brain will just have an information overload, and then now you have a mental breakdown. Now your mind, it's hard for your mind to wrap around certain realities a lot of times. So it just kind of boggles your mind. It's like a brain, a mental overload. So some people can handle it. Some people, it boggles people's mind that, it's certain things that they thought were true, but is actually not true. And it's hard for some people to grasp at times, but it's a big difference between people that know pre-slavery history and people that don't, and obviously people that are delusional as well. I mean, that's obvious, but yeah, it's a big thing. But I gotta, let's see, it's another like 15 minutes left of this different this video here. So let me finish playing this here.
Do y'all see what I'm saying? All praise is due to Allah. All praise is due to Allah. We're not in the world of a man, we're in the world of a beast. All praise is due to Allah. He changes daylight saving time every 6 months. If you want to know what's going on, you turn on the 6 o'clock news. You turn to A, B, C. A is the first letter, B is the second, C is the third. 1 + 2 + 3 = 6. Or you turn to CBS. C is the third letter, B is the second letter, S is the 19th letter. Add it up, it becomes 24, 2th letter. O is the 15th letter, 1 + 5 is 6. X is the 24th letter, and 2 + 4 is what? So in Fox is 6, 6.
And one good thing, it is a lot of things that I do, quite a bit of things I agree with when it comes to Nation Islam. I mean, these guys are, for the most part, enlightened black men, okay, and women. Very enlightened, very much aware of certain truths. They are not liked. They are on the terrorist list as far as a list of terrorism in America. Now, I will say this. They have some certain, like, let's just say, underground things that they do that you don't want no parts of. They, they come off angelic, or they talk angelic, but these people are the worst gangsters that you ever want to come across. They are an organization, and they deal with violence and nonviolence. And they are very efficient at either one of those. And they have reputations. Um, they went to war with the FBI, and FBI raided one of their mass years. I believe it was either Detroit or Chicago, and they killed an FBI agent. They actually, FBI tried to raid one of the mass years. They really, are not liked, because obviously, one of the reasons is they do harbor some men that do some illegal activities. They have been known to be hitmen. All you got to do is research the Philadelphia Murder Inc. That was them. A woman, if she thought her husband was stepping out of line, she could just go to this place. 60s. All you got to do, if you watch, it's probably on YouTube. It's American Gangster. They have a documentary on Murder Inc. Um, so yeah, I found what I was looking for. Like, I had to go. I had to go into. Now I will say this though. I am a killer myself. I know jujitsu. I was trained by some of these men, so I'm not angelic either. What I'm saying, don't start none, won't be none. But the thing is like, for the most part, that's why there's a federal government. You want to be thankful that there's a federal government, because the thing about the feds, they step in when the state and county and city are not capable of doing anything. You know, when you got highly skilled, concentrated bullies. You know, highly skilled, concentrated, evil people that will try to get away with murder. That's what people like you could say. I don't want to talk about nobody that's trying to fight a case or anything, but that is ongoing. So let me think about somebody from the past. You know, I'll just say this: when the state ain't doing nothing, and the motherfucking county and the city ain't doing nothing, you better thank your taxpayer money that the feds are the feds, because they step in when basically it's highly concentrated street organizations, syndicates, so on and so forth. I mean, that's why they were created, because it's like basically when you got people, man, getting away with murder in mass, in this, in like I say, the state and county and are not able to do anything about it for whatever reason. It just you want you want that federal arm to step in, because it's some highly concentrated street organizations, highly concentrated organizations that are very efficient, and you don't want no parts of. And they intimidate. They're very intimidating. They intimidate state, county, city, law enforcement, and that's when the federal government got to step in. And the federal government got to step in. You done did some shit. The federal government actually stopped whole states from basically coming in to uphold Jim Crow laws. I was trying to find the footage. I could not find the footage, but it was a footage. I don't know where it was. I've been trying to find it, but I can't find it. Where basically the National Guard or the U.S. Army, they had to basically be dispatched, because the one of those southern states, whether it be Arkansas, I don't remember exactly what state it was. One of those southern states where the actual law enforcement was trying to bypass the federal government and not wanting to adhere to the law of basically uh, making Jim Crow laws outlawed. So literally in this video, I saw you basically either National Guard or U.S. Army soldiers hop out the car and start shooting. They had a shootout with the state police, basically with the state police and other law enforcement, other militiamen. They were trying to uphold these Jim Crow laws, these segregated laws, and stuff like that. This happened in the 1950s, 1960s era. And I mean, like, it's like video footage like that. Like, you see that you would, I mean, first of all, seeing that, you understand how, basically an entire state just be like, can just basically be so corrupt that the federal government has to step in. And it's like, it's just stuff like that, like I say, You know, you when basically when I was in the military, you follow the chain of command. Well, if the state is not able to do anything, you have to go to the federal government, and bypass the state, because it just, it gets that bad, but the thing is that, it's it's a lot going on, man. But let me finish playing this video. It's like about probably 15 minutes left.
His language is in 6 tenses: past, present, future tense, and past, present, future perfect tense. You still with me? The capital of America is Washington, D.C. D in the Roman numerals is 500 and C is 100. 5 plus 100 is 600. Is that right? We live in a 6 million square miles. Y'all still with me? Yo, even the man that's faking like he's the vicar of Christ, the Pope, if you were to look at the head adornment or the fez that he wears, you would see the words Vicarious File Dia in Vicarious F-I-L-I Dia with 112 plus 53 plus 501 equals 6, 6, 6. He ain't representing God and his Christ. He's representing Satan himself. The real vicar of Christ. The real vicar of Christ. The real Pope is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. He is the one that will get us, he's the door to get us into the mind of Christ. All praises are due to Allah. All praises are due to Allah.
Wait a minute, now somebody might have got confused. Because they started clapping too, so they might have thought I said that the Caucasian white man is a devil. No, I didn't say a devil. I said that is the devil. When you read of devil in the Bible, in the Holy for One, it is talking about that Caucasian white man who is Yakub's grafted devil. Devil is a word with a scientific meaning. When we call him devil, we're not calling him out of his name. When somebody calls you out of your name, you are justified in being offended, but the white man is not offended by being called devil. He knows that's his name. He just wish we wouldn't use it. In the 60-year teaching.
Now, this is what I was looking for earlier. Take a break from that. And show you this here. This is Melanesian people. So you can see the light brown eyes, blonde hair right here. Okay. And they have that naturally. Okay, not all of them, but a lot of them. It's very beautiful. It's, very, very beautiful. But it's rare. It's, this small island, yeah, I want to go there, motherfucker. You got me. If you thinking that shit. Shit. I'm planning an expedition, man. And the rich motherfuckers is watching me. They're already booking the fucking plane ticket, you fucking rich bastards. But yeah, it is a fucking thing, yeah, so I mean, of course I'm not going to go see her. I'm going to go see her mama. But yeah, let me get back here. If she's single, okay. Just saying. All right, let me
Yakub in the making speaking of the devil, the white man has never denied that he's the devil. That's right. He just said, I just wish y'all wouldn't say that. That's right. And quite naturally, he wished we wouldn't say that, because when you find out he's the devil, then you don't want to follow him no more.
I love myself since God made me to know myself. Before I knew myself, I loved white people because I thought they were the God's people. But
he was a Mason. He was a Mason. Elijah Muhammad, he was a master Mason before he got into the Nation of Islam. I think he's from Georgia. Yeah, he's from Georgia. He was a master Mason, and pretty much he actually Farrakhan is also a master Mason. Okay, as far as what I heard, he recommended his members to join other organizations and stuff like that. So he was a master Mason before he got into the Nation of Islam, before he met Master Farah Muhammad. Now here's another thing, like, they don't like very notable people talking bad about their basically leaders and stuff like that, or their organization. I didn't say anything disparaging. I just basically pointed out the facts. It is what it is. Now they have their own police force and their own actual people that keep people in line, and stuff like that. So if people are doing wrong, they have a way of addressing that within that organization. Now they have had issues in the past. Like I say, this is from, when I talked about Murder Inc., that was from the 1960s and so on. But again, these people, they have a reputation. They are very good at being security guards, bodyguards. They are highly trained, and yeah, they definitely ain't scared of nobody. Okay, I mean, I know these men personally. I train with these men. You don't want no problems with these guys. Okay, I promise you don't want any issues. And they are very intelligent. They are conscious as far as their understanding is and knowledge. I might have got the the things crossed up. It was a guy from Cybernetics, I believe. The guy that created Cybernetics, L. Ron Hubbard or whatever, that started the Scientology movement. They have some type of correlation with the Nation of Islam as well. That's kind of out, like that's another thing as well. All of these things, if I'm making it up, write it down and research it. I promise you, you're going to see a shit ton of videos. You're going to get a shit ton of research, because I'm not making this up. This is old information. This is like 20-year-old information, older than that. So, like I say, I know a lot about it because most of my mother was in the Nation, and then other people I know were also in the Nation. It ain't nobody, probably too many people other than somebody that was actually in the Nation that knows more about it than I do. I'm a pretty much a pretty good insider as far as my research and as far as the people that I know and the other people that were part of Wharf Dean Muhammad's movement. My mother was part of Wharf Dean Muhammad's movement. She was like flip-flopping. My mama was flip-flopping like a motherfucker. She was Sunni Islam, Then she went back to the nation. She was first in the nation, went to Sunni Islam with Warfdeen Muhammad, then went right back to Farrakhan. My mom liked to join organizations and shit. She liked to be a part of stuff. She used to be lonely and wanted friends and shit. She was a Aquarius, so they love having friends and talking to people and all that shit. They like joining organizations so they can feel proud about themselves and all that shit. So the thing is this, okay, I know quite a bit about, this organization. At one time I was thinking about joining this organization. I didn't do it. I went to Sunni Islam because the thing about Sunni Islam, or even religion itself, there is a direct path to some type of God, right? To some type of direct connection. It is it's a faith type of thing, and at that time that was what I needed. But I found a way to have more direct personal basically connection, where I don't have to go to no church, I don't have to go to no masjid, no synagogue, nowhere. Like one of the brothers told me when I was in passing, from I was at a gas station. I recognized one of the guys they used to go to the masjid, and I told him basically what I was on, and he was like, "Oh, you like Abraham? Because Abraham, it was just him and his family. He didn't have, quote unquote, with that story, he didn't have anywhere to go because it was just him. It was just him and God. It wasn't in his family. It wasn't no people like that yet, right? Because it's Abraham, right, the father of mankind, right? So that's my type of my I guess you could call me a Abrahamic. I'm a Abrahamic. I have a direct connection with God. I don't need to go anywhere to fucking, I don't need to join any organizations. I ain't gotta join no religion to have no faith or direct connection with God. I'm I'm just out here. Like everywhere I go, he's there. You know what I'm saying? I don't need to go anywhere to have some type of religion, to have some type of connection with God, right? So let me finish this up. Bear with me. Like 10 minutes left.
They had a God that wasn't mine. And I don't want their God. I thought all of us had the same God. Well, you got to think again.
Go ahead.
The scientists of the white people today gladly witness with me. They know they are not the people that came in the beginning of the creation of the heavens and the earth. When their time is only 6,000 years, they've been around here. Our time, we can't.
And I will say this. I've been saying some stuff, okay? A Jehovah's Witness woman and a Nation Islam woman is probably a better woman to have a relationship with than, let's just say, other women, because they do know better. Do they do better? I mean, that's another thing that might be a struggle. Depends on who it is, but those women, when they actually, like, yeah, even if they still in the like organization or whatever, they are some refined women. I mean, when I say, I didn't say, I mean, fine, I'm talking about refined. They are refined, very refined. One of the things that's unique about the Nation Islam, they actually do have training for women to be wives. They have a training, like they have actual training for young women and women, older women, to basically teach them how to cook, clean, sew, wash dishes, clean, um, take care of their husband. They teach certain things that women should know, how to be wives, how to be women, how to be feminine, and all that. They do have that training. They're probably the only um, organization that I know that actually do train women to actually be more feminine, to be, you know, basically they used to do that in high school. They used to have home economics. I mean, basically, which is, I don't know why it was called home economics, but you washing dishes, making eggs and bacon and shit. I mean, like, they do that, like in as far as, they teach women to actually be wives, mothers, how to rear children, educate children. They do that. They're probably the only organization I know. I don't even know if the church do that really. Like, I mean, it's really much needed now more than ever, and they still do that. They still have, it's called the MG Muslim girls training. So they do have that, and that is helpful. I will say though, from my life on this planet and living in America, Black people have very difficult cultural dynamics, and that culture is just a lot of defiance. The Black woman is very, very defiant. So doesn't matter what religion. A Black woman could be a Jew, she could be Jehovah's Witness, she could be Nation Islam, she could be Christian. The culture of defiance that, I mean, uh, BGS Sidmore calls it Klingon behavior. It's just, that's just how they are. Like, and it's not that much different with African women. African women probably even worse, to be honest. They're very, very highly androgynous, very defiant in many ways. Now, some of that is shit testing. They want to make sure you're tough, but damn near you damn near gotta be extremely aggressive, to a lot of African and even African American women, because they just so rough and tough. And part of that is just the environment of Black America, because Black America is pretty much a lot of roughness to it, a lot of poverty, a lot of unemployment, a lot of negative stuff to overcome and deal with. So I think that's culturally why that is to a certain extent. But as far as I know, every damn thing that I saw as far as religion, all of them, uh, culturally speaking, it ain't it ain't that much difference. And Black men is no different. It's the same type of um, cultural degradation that they have to deal with as well. I mean, and it's the same thing. It's the same problems, like that are kind of it seeps into, just how people think. The slavery was only what, 100 years ago, 150 years ago. A lot of the mentalities, a lot of that stuff, it is still embedded in a lot of Black people. That's why I have took the steps to become enlightened. I'm grateful that I was, enlightened to the point where I tried to learn, more and more about how to refine myself, and, quote unquote, like the true red pill, not just women and all of that. Even though I do admit I probably should have learned more about women back then, like when I got enlightened, which was like 2007. I already knew a lot about women. I already knew how to get women, but I will admit that I did not know a lot of the games and manipulation that women do, and I'm still learning. You know what I'm saying? And I just wasn't really in tune with all of that. But I eventually learned that shit. But yeah, it's that's what I did, and it's not that many people that are quote unquote enlightened. Most people are in the darkness. Most people, like even people in the Nation of Islam, they say people are deaf, dumb, and blind. A lot of people are that. They are deaf, dumb, and blind. Um, and they're asleep. You know, they're like walking zombies. Like you see that in America. You walk around at night and you see people walking around and like zombies. You know, you see Kensington Street. You know, people walking around like zombies. You know, strung out on fentanyl cocktails and all of that type of stuff. So I just have to put that out there. You know, yeah, they are those women. They're very, very refined. The chick that I was with, that was Gemini. She was in not Jehovah's Witness. She was in the Nation of Islam. So yeah, definitely.
We don't know when we were born. Go ahead, the Apostle. I know what you used to think, but I'm here to tell you we all was thinking wrong.
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, in response to a question posed to him by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. when they met in 1966, the question he asked the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was, "Do you believe that all whites are devils?" The Honorable Elijah Muhammad used the example of the king snake and the rattlesnake. He said one is harmless and one is filled with poison. But remember, brother, both are still snakes.
But if there is a rattlesnake in the field who has been biting your brothers and your sisters, and you go and tell them that that's a rattlesnake, and all of the harm that has ever come to them has come to them from that particular source, well, then that rattler will think that the warner is teaching hate. He'll go back and tell the other snakes that this man is teaching hate, this man is teaching hate, but it's not hate. It's just that when you study people who have been harmed and discover the source of their injury, the source of all of their defects, and you begin to point out that source, it's not that you hate the source, but your love for your people is so intense, so great, that you must let them know what is wrong with them, what is the cause of their ills. And this is one of the basic factors I believe involved when people think, or when the propaganda is put out that Mr. Muhammad teaches hate. He teaches black people to love each other. And our love for each other is so strong, we don't have any room left in our heart.
The followers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad recognize that name. That we heard of Yakub. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad told us about Yakub a long time ago. Matter of fact, Yakub, that's the father of the devil. Right. And when we say the devil, we don't mean some man down in the ground in a red suit. We ain't worried about no devil like that. We ain't never suffered nothing under a devil like that. But the one we have caught hell from is not a devil in the ground, it's the devil on top of the ground. It's the Caucasian white man.
After Yakub made his people and sent them back to the Holy Land, within 6 months, they had turned the Holy Land upside down. And so we rounded up all that we could find and drove them out into the hills and cave sides of Europe. The cold caves the fierce and savage existence fighting for food.
And it's kind of tripped out because if you read the book, The Message to the Black Man, it talks about them. They gave them some wool, and they had to cross the burning sands. Now, some say that is actual ritual for the Masons. So, like I say, man, it is a possibility that this whole story, man, ain't tinfoil hat. It might be true. Like it is. It is. I'm not. I'm giving the. I'm saying that it's not true. My theory is not true. It's just some type of story, fable tale that is good. It's a good story, like a good urban legend or some shit, right? But I'm not saying that it's, I mean, I'm leaving room for it to be actually possibly even true. I mean, I don't think it's true, but you have all of these different things. Like I say, I mean, I've never joined the Masons, but it's like that's what I heard that they put on that ritual, crossing the burning sands and all of that type of stuff. Like that's what they said in the book Message to the Black Men. They once they got kicked out of Mecca, they was given wool and they had to cross the burning sands because obviously Saudi Arabia is sands. Now, like I said, again, I don't know why the correlation is with Mecca and all of that type of stuff because it doesn't really make sense to me. But I mean, this is that's you got to read the book to really kind of understand the full story. I mean, these are like parts and pieces of what they basically talking about with the Yakub story. I was gonna just download the book and just read it, but I think that would have probably put more people to sleep than I would want. So I just wanted to play a video. But I mean, you don't really have to read it. I'm pretty sure it's probably on a audio book somewhere. But yeah, the book kind of more or less tells this whole story and all of that. And it's not the whole book is not about Yakub and the devil and all. It's about different stuff. But um, yeah, like that book is it's a pretty tripped out book because it got other stuff in it as well. But yeah, let me finish this out.
They became closer to the animals. That is what the word savage means. A savage, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says, is a person that has lost the knowledge of themselves and is living a beast life.
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that the white man in the caves of Europe after Moses was sent.
Now, another thing is this is kind of really interesting too, right? This is what I learned. When you go into Greek mythology, like that's what I'm eventually bear with me. I'm going it's going to be other tinfoil hat conversations. But when I was really listening to Greek mythology, the story of the Titans and the war with the Titans, a lot of that I traced to biblical stories. And I know I'm not the only one that correlated biblical stories from, I don't remember the actual story as far as what it was called, but it was the story of Zeus and the Titans and opening up Pandora's box and all of that type of stuff. And it's like, I mean, basically, a lot of that stuff with teaching the it was supposedly gods coming down to the mortals to teach them how to basically create fire. Because that kind of goes into the actual that book, The Message to the Black Man. It talks about actually Moses wasn't Moses what you think in church. They believe Moses taught the white man how to basically not be a savage, how to basically create fire and, you know, basically grow crops and, you know, have livestock so they don't be cannibals. And it's like, you know, that book, The Message of the Black Man, goes into all of that. Like it talks about Moses actually being the one that actually taught the quote unquote white man. I want to say Europeans, but white, I'll just say white man because they said, you know, taught them how to basically create fire and, you know, basically get out of being cavemen and stuff. Like, so that I'm not making this up. Like I said, you gotta watch the book. I know like a lot of white people, they don't want to read stuff like that because I don't know. It's like, I guess it would be the equivalent of me reading the Klan handbook. I get that maybe as far as that logic. Like, yeah, I probably ain't gonna read the Klan handbook. I haven't read Mein Kampf. I don't have any plans to read Mein Kampf. So I get that whole correlation. Like, you probably not gonna read it, but the thing is that I promise I read that book, and I think I still have that book somewhere. And yeah, it talks about, you say you think Moses is in Egypt and he, you know, all the, you know, the story of Exodus and all. No, their version of Moses is he came to Europe and taught the savages how to create fire and how to be civilized. And yeah, it's tripped out, man. It's very tripped out. So yeah, it's about 5 minutes left.
To them. Some of them, those who listen to Moses, they got the bright idea of trying to graft themselves back into black. And they went through a process, and the honorable that resulted in the monkey or the primate, one of the primate species. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that the monkeys and chimpanzee, that came with the white man, that they were cursed. And part of their descent into bestiality, climbing on trees, running around on all fours, that extended their arm proportions, like the ape. They spent so much time in the trees, eventually they devolved so far. The
only thing, right? Not the only thing, but the obvious thing is you still have black tribes that are living just like they were tens of thousands of years ago. I mean, obviously the Indonesian tribe that's right off of India, the coast of India, that they traced as they're basically the ancestors of all of the Indians in the main subcontinent of India. And you got different African tribes in Africa that are very still, you know, primal and primitive, like the the bush people in Africa is, you know, the people in Papua New Guinea, they still, you know, be climbing trees and shit. So it's just, you know, I'm not into debates and shit like that. Like, I don't have any plans on debating. Like, I'm not the great debaters. I'm not trying to debate anybody. You never see me on Teapot debating anybody because I don't have any desire to debate anybody. But the thing is, the obvious thing is just basically, I mean, you know, just general world view. You got tribal people that even white people make fun of black people or African people because they still are very much in a lot of different regards very primitive because they're you know, black people are very old and um, they still have origins of people, you know, that are primitive, that have been around for, you know, tens of thousands of years and still are very much primitive in their way of life, right? You know, almost even savage, like they eat raw meat from animals and they, you know, basically cook raw meat like from, you know, fire outside. And you know, it's like, yeah, I mean, it's like they are still doing that, you know. um you know, it's like the thing is that that's obviously that point is very very much valid. Like, I mean, it's, I mean, okay, yeah, a lot of people I would say then, well, what about all of these black tribes that are pretty much still primitive? So I'm not trying to defend anything. I'm just saying, just to state the obvious, you know. And that's why, I mean, a lot of these guys do get debates, and they don't really do good in those debates because a lot of these conversations is like really is tinfoil hatish. It's very tinfoilish. It's very kind of like tripped out, you know, and you know, it's like it kind of debunks itself because, like I say, I mean, I don't have to even show a video of people eating raw meat, or not even raw meat, but just like, you know, antelope meat or whatever on a fire, and they still, you know, got little cloth clothes and look like they in the Flintstones. I mean, so it's like, and you know what I'm saying? It's like, you know, that point is very, very much. It's kind of like when you point at somebody and then it's three fingers pointing back at you. that's what. That's what. That's the. That's the. That's the. That's the thing that you're saying. Like, you know, when you talking about somebody else, you gotta make sure that you ain't doing the same shit. Like, it's like talking about somebody drinking. It's like you drink. I mean, you know, don't you drink? Like, yeah, right. Like it's kind of like that. Like if you gonna say something about somebody, you gotta, you know, basically point to all of the, you know, things that, you know, the people you're culturally connected to are not guilty of the same behavior, like type of thing, right? So yeah, let me finish this.
The result was monkey.
Under their dark fur, chimpanzees have pale skin.
He said that when you look at the Caucasian white man, you are looking at death.
Oh my God.
That is death. In him and under him, we have suffered death. Physical, mental, and spiritual. Everything that he has ever given to you, whether it is physical food, mental food, or spiritual food, has brought about your and my death.
Now I give him that. I definitely give him that shit.
We don't have to look a long distance to find the adversary, because the essence of that adversary is sitting up in ourselves. We know that Satan, or the devil, is the adversary, the opponent, the foe of Almighty God, Allah, and the people of God. Why would God make an adversary? Since he's above need of everything, why would he bring into existence an opponent?
an opposer. What is his purpose? When we mentioned a few broadcasts ago that it is written in the Quran that Allah said, I am going to place a ruler in the earth. And the angels said, we celebrate your praise. We extol your holiness. But what would you put in the earth as a ruler except that which would create mischief and cause the shedding of blood? But Allah answered the angels saying, I know what you know not.
Yakub was trying to do something. He was trying to solve one of the mysteries of the ages. Really trying to solve the problem that you're trying to solve. That's why you really shouldn't look at Yakub as your enemy. Because out of what Yakub has done comes a solution to your problem. But what is your problem? Your problem is that you would like to be like God, which is to say perfect. Right. But you find it so difficult to achieve.
Check this out. The most honorable Elijah Muhammad said that I am Yakub in reverse. You didn't hear what he said, I am Yakub in reverse. Yakub's goal was to make a new man. Is that right? Yakub was born out of the dissatisfaction of the people. And from that 30% dissatisfaction, he produced a near 100% change. But he married the weaker on with the weaker and killed off the stronger, didn't he? His goal was to produce a world abstract to the will of God. When he finished his process of grafting, he made a new man that was weak and wicked. Well, if the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said he's Yakub in reverse, then he's trying to not marry weak with weak, but strong with strong. He's not trying to produce a world abstract the will of God. He's trying to bring the will of God back into the world. Just as Yakub was a man that went to the island of Palan, it just so happens that Mas Mariam is on Stony Island. Huh? And we are in the center for the re-education of the so-called American Negro. We are in the spot where a new man is being made. Well, I'm sure that Yakub had to have one man that was the first off the assembly line. What y'all think? There had to be one that was born that he could say, hey, this is my new man. And from this one, I'm going to make a whole bunch of copies of that. Well, I'm here to tell you the most honorable Elijah Muhammad can say the same thing. Because he has made a new man that will become the original that we will all copy and make into ourselves. So when one says, put on the new man, did you hear me? Put on the new man. All praise is due to Allah. We're not talking about putting on a man that lived and died 2,000 years ago. We're talking about putting on the first fruit of them that slept. We're talking about putting on the first man off the assembly line of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad's New Man Project. Y'all all right? Well, in order for us to be made into this new copy, we're going to have to go through some of the same steps. In fact, probably all of the steps to become the copy of the one that's among us. Would you agree? Put on the new man. Well, if the scripture says, God's promise, that he says, I will make all things new. Well, things don't create themselves. Things come from men and women. Is that right? So before you can have all things made new, the people have to be made new. And people aren't made new from the outfit they put on, or the cell phone they have in their pocket, or the car they drive, or the money they have in their bank account. People are made new when they have a new mind. So in order for all things to be made new, it has to follow a certain pattern. New mind got to come to make a new man. Then the new man's got to make all the things new. So in order for God to make his word bond, he can't make all things new without using the matter of human beings as the vehicle and the tool for his word to be made bond.
There you go. There you go. There you go. All right. Well, that's the conclusion of that. And I'll just say what I think about what happened as far as how white people were created. They kind of went in it like the first hour, or actually the first 30 minutes of that actual video. They talked about albinism. That's pretty much what I believe white people came from. Albinism, a genetic mutation from a lack of melanin. Okay, that's just simple science. And how, like the whole 6,000 year thing, I don't think that's true. I don't think white people was just only 6,000 years old, because simple science, albinism has always been in existence, right? So humans been around longer than 6,000 years. Albinism have been around 6,000 years. There you go. Now, do white people just solely the devil and everybody else is not? Absolutely not true. Do white people have devilish ways or evil ways? Yeah, they do. They do have very, very evil ways. You look up the serial killers, um, the harming of children, right? Look up a lot of different statistics as far as violence and crime and all of that. I mean, that is pretty much a lot of stats, right, that lean towards primarily white men. You look up the nuclear, like I said earlier, the nuclear weapons, the dropping bombs and shit, nuclear bombs and all of the weapons, right? Um, that is definitely a creation that white people definitely claim to fame. Very, very diabolical nuclear weapons. So much so that it could destroy the world, possibly, right? If everybody have a nuclear fallout, right? Everybody launched nuclear missiles. India, Russia, China, America, Israel, Iran, whoever else has nuclear missiles, they all launch. The world is definitely fucking fully sci-fi from here on out. People that are buying bunkers, a lot of the rich people and wealthy people are buying bunkers. Bunker sales are through the roof because people believe that possibly this can be something that can happen in their lifetime. That's why they're buying bunkers. So, all that being said, even in that book, The Message to the Black Man, allegedly Yakub blew up the moon. Okay, they didn't talk about that. I mean, I don't know if Yakub blew up the moon. The moon definitely is in existence. The theory is the moon actually was part of Earth and Yakub blew it up. Okay, I don't know if that happened. I wasn't around. Now, I ain't heard nobody else say the Earth was blown up and that's part of the moon. Some people say the moon landing is not real. I don't know. Okay. The thing is this. Um, Basically, devils, even Muhammad Ali said himself, because he was part of the Nation of Islam. They said that a white man was just a devil. He said that everybody is a devil. Everybody is capable of being a devil. Now, that's my theory too. I've met devilish people of all races, creeds, colors, sexes. I've seen them. I've, you know, witnessed some of them. I've dealt with some of these people. I've probably dealt with them today, you know, or yesterday. But the thing is this. There's definitely traits that are different among white people and other people and stuff. And it has something to do with genetics. It has something to do with the melanin. Those things are true. Okay. There are certain genetic defects that other races have, that are, you know, very much, you know, a higher rate of, you know, certain diseases and certain things like that. And you know, that is, you know, definitely associated with, basically white people and other races of people. They have certain diseases, certain genetic defects. Lack of melanin causes the sun to penetrate their skin. They have to take sunblock. They have to primarily concern themselves about getting sunburn. I believe the highest rate of sunburn is in Israel. Um, sun, or I think skin cancer or something like that, from, you know, basically the sun. So you know, that is the thing. Now, do I believe that white people are some like different people, that they can fly and they, you know, just jump up and jump 10 feet, you know? No, I don't think anything like that. I think that basically all humans are pretty much able to procreate with one another, produce healthy, viable offspring, and pretty much I don't even believe in too much of the race theory. Because basically we are human, we have certain genetic traits that are different from one another. It might be more boring to think that. It might be my philosophy and theory might be very, very much boring, and just kind of more of a, you know, a humanist approach. But I mean, it is true. Like, I mean, the concept of race and all that is, it's very, it was a construct that was created, for one. Then two, the idea of it in itself is, it doesn't really make sense, because how can a white woman make a black baby and then that baby, um, be black? Like, so how is that possible? Like, that just that concept always kind of clustered my mind. Like, how can you make a baby with a white woman and she create a black baby? Okay. Um, how can she be a conduit to a black child if she's not black herself? How is that possible? And it's like, it just gets really goofy when you really start down the whole racial thing and all of that goofy shit. And it just gets, you know, real goofy. And when I got older, I realized that the whole racial thing was, it was just a play for just human competition and global dominance and all of that type of shit. Because basically, if you take, you know, children that are, you know, separated from evil parents that push these racist teachings onto them, they don't have the concept of race. You know, a little boy, little baby boy, toddler They don't know anything about any fucking race. It's a social construct that is taught to children and taught to them to hate one another and look out and watch for one another and all of that goofy shit. And the thing about it is, um, it's a taught concept that people that usually family and friends teach one another to do, and then you grow up and you realize that all people are in competition with one another. Families are in competition with other families. Other people are in competition with other people, and that's the way it goes. And the thing is that again, the whole Yakub story. People do have big heads. It is black men with big heads. I have a big head. Am I a Yakubian? I don't think so. But maybe I am. I mean, I don't know. But the thing is that is there an island where they grafted all of these people and they create? No, I don't think so. I don't think so at all. Because I know history. I know history, so I know that you don't have to go to no island and create all mankind. Mankind has been traveling throughout history, from Africa throughout the world. I mean, all I have to do, this pretty much blows the Yakubian story out the water, and I'm gonna leave you with this. Um, this actual story of Neanderthals and the Grimaldi man and different prehistoric men refute the whole Yakubian story. It definitely is the story that of history that scientists and anthropologists have already found and discovered these bones of these ancient prehistoric types of men that lived on this earth. Probably around the time that the dinosaurs roamed the earth. So let me play this and then I'll leave you with it.
Where were they living? Where you are living? How old? How long ago? 5.5 million years ago. Who was living in Europe at that time? No one. Who was living in Asia at that time? No one. Who was in Bismarck Archipelago? No one. Australia, Tonga, none. Haiti, Fiji, Samoa. Who was living there? No one. Humanity was only here. 3.5 million years ago, Homo habilis. Where was he living? Here. Was he living elsewhere? No. 1.5 million years. Humanity at the stage of Homo erectus, the African that walks upright. Where is he living? Here. He lives here to populate the world. He passes through the Gulf of Eden, avoids Saudi Arabia, crosses into India. And then he goes through Kenya, Nijikenda, Tayal in Australia, and populates all the islands in between. Avoids Israel, avoids Jordan, avoids Syria. He also discovers fire. Then 150,000 years, modern man, known as Homo sapien. Homo sapien. The oldest Homo sapien, the bones discovered in Omo Valley in Ethiopia and Kenya. He started where? Here. Then he moves with his feet and his cows, mobile food, and his language, articulated symbolic language, and his brain, a bigger cranium, and he populates Europe. He is the first person to populate Europe about 40,000 years ago, known as Gromordi. The first people to populate Europe were black people. They were known as Gromordi. First people to populate England were black people. They were known as Bika. First people to populate India were black people. They were known as Dravidians. First people to populate Japan, black people. They were known as Masaba Negroes. Mulembe, Kamaku, Wagasile, they came from here. They populated Japan. That's why Japanese names are like Ugandan names. Takahara, Nakamura, Kato, Toyota, all those, because the first Japanese were black people. In ancient time, the whole world belonged to the black man, the black woman. You are the people that populated the world. You are the people that gave birth to everybody else. And quite significantly, and I am telling you this as a scholar, I have a library of 32,000 books. I have read each one of them, not only read them, but remember them. I have traveled in almost every corner of the world, lectured at the most prestigious universities. I am telling you that in ancient time, the only people who are on earth were you and your ancestors. You. And you are also the people of the scriptures. All scripture, be it the Rigvit Veda, the Namapale, the Peru, the Papyrus of Ani, the Papyrus of Hunefa, the Quran, the Bible, the Book of Zoroaster, the Epic of Gilgamesh, is all about black people. Black people. But I know you have not heard about this information. Why? Because when white people colonize the world, they also colonize the information about the world. Some of you who have maids at home, or if you get a maid when you finish this college, you are not going to teach that maid chemistry. You are not going to teach him about viruses and pathogens. You are not going to teach them about coach postulates. Because if they learn about this, they'll be saying, if you say, go and cook, you say, oh, you know what, I cooked yesterday. And today, you might as well go and do your own cooking. Because I'm busy reading this wonderful book, you know, about coach postulates, and he says, you know, a virus must be available in sufficient quantities in a diseased person, you know, for it to be blamed for causing a disease. Do you understand what I'm saying? So white people hid the information about yourself. They didn't want to tell you you were a great person. Let me give you examples of some.
Message.